Welcome on into Daggerheart characters. Today, we're going to be looking at the Reanimated Patchwork, and we're going to get into some body horror with this. Essentially, is what we're doing. I started off, I was just looking at some combinations of domains, looking at the cards. I was like, what could like a bone domain and dread domain look like? Like, what could that overall class feel be? You've got this kind of unnatural swiftness from the bone going on, and you've of course got what the dread domain has to offer too, and you tend to lean darker. And I was trying to think of things, so I ended up going into chat GTP and gave it a couple of prompts about kind of how I felt, what the bone domain and dread domain might be like. But like, what's the give me some outputs here for some ideas of the class, like just some class names that might come to your mind, dear AI. And they came up with like a reanimator, and I was like, well, it's like a necromancer. We've done that before. We did that before the dread domain existed. It could redo one of those sometime, but it's like, what if we are the reanimated? So that's how I came up with the Reanimated Patchwork. So here's the flavorful write-up that I have for it. The Reanimated Patchwork is no natural creature, but a grotesque second chance at life, forged from the remnants of the dead and bound by morbid ritual. They are a singular being whose existence defies the grave. Some embrace their misshapen forms, finding grim strength in the ability to endure pain and punishment that would shatter any ordinary body. Others draw upon the fractured echoes of the souls stitched into their being, shaping that borrowed memory into chilling insight and unsettling influence. One thing is true of all reanimated patchwork: they strive desperately to feel whole again. Some descend into bloodlust, seeking to silence the void within through violence, while others turn outward, grasping for control over others' minds to fill the hollowness that gnaws within their own. So, the Reanimated Patchwork, obviously, we're going to go into body horror here, as well as maybe kind of taking over others' bodies, potentially. We'll see about that feature if you like that, or I have a backup feature for that one as well. But why don't we get into this? Obviously, we're looking at the bone and the dread domain. For the starting evasion is 11, starting hit points is 6. Your class items could be a pouch full of dirt, or maybe a taxidermied part of your old body if you are truly have been stitched together. So, Reanimated Patchwork's hope feature is going to be merciless. This is very much taken in form from the Warrior's Hope feature. Spend 3 hope to get a +1 bonus to your spellcast rolls until your next rest. The Warrior's feature being +1 bonus to your attack rolls. So this should remain, I would think, within balance based on drawing exactly from a already existing class feature. I should say hope feature. And for the class feature, we've got Death Touched. At the end of each long rest, gain a number of death dice. They should be d4s, equal to your knowledge trait. When you deal major or severe damage, you may expend a death die, roll it, and force the target to mark stress equal to the result. At 5th level, whenever you run out of dice at the end of a short rest, if you had none, you can gain 1. Just a nice way to force more stress on, which is definitely a part of the dread domain. Stress and working with stress and fear against your opponents, working with those. So that's just going to increase that more. I kind of think of that as just being your essence. Probably your visual appearance is just so grotesque, so threatening to your opponents that they might feel overwhelmed in the heat of battle, even when you get some of those more major or severe strikes on them. So that's that feat. As always, let me know, if you think something's a little OP, underpowered even, but OP is really what we're worried about. Don't mind if something's a little underpowered. Let me know, then this is something where maybe it should just be severe damage. If you think so, I'm happy to hear that, and I will take it into account and potentially update this, which, by the way, you can find this sheet if you want to work on this. There should be a link in the description to be able to download it and use it for yourself. So this is not the mage. I always just copy and paste an old file and then work from it. Reanimated Patchwork subclasses are going to be either the Stitched or the Grave Mind. So obviously, once again, the Stitch, we're going to lean into the body horror element of this, really get into the grotesque nitty-grittiness of this, especially with some of the names of the foundation, of the features, not just the foundation features. And then for the Grave Mind, we're going to get a little bit more mental with this. This is a spellcaster. I figure... well, I guess we can get to it when we get to the Grave Mind. Let's focus on the Stitched, which, like I said, play this for a true body horror experience. And for that reason, the spellcast rates are going to be different here for the Stitched and for the Grave Mind. The spellcast rate is going to be Instinct in this situation, a much more primal kind of character is what we're going for, and so you're going to draw upon the rawness of your body's changes in order to help work your magic. So the first foundation feature is going to be alternate form, and this very much draws from the substance. When I made this, I pulled up a bunch of body horror movies to try and help give me some ideas, and I haven't seen the substance yet. I really need to, but this is that one. So once per long rest, after a short rest, you shed your skin. So there you go. You got the flavor from it. So how this works is you're going to take a -1 penalty to your major damage, a -2 penalty to your severe damage threshold, and so major damage threshold, and then you're going to gain a +1 bonus to your evasion score until your next rest. So this is just kind of I feel it like kind of pulling into your youth. Maybe you're a little fresh on the outside of the skin. You don't literally have to shed your skin, but you get the idea here. Is you're just a little unnatural. You think of how in some forms of media, some zombies and just some horror creatures can move unnaturally. I'm trying to tap into that as well with this, by boosting that evasion scores. Maybe you got that creepy movement. And for the second foundation feature, we've got Sacrificial Extremity. Once per rest session, when you take severe damage, don't mark any hit points. Don't worry about it. You're going to sacrifice a portion of one of your limbs. You can fix that later. No big deal. You are called the Stitched for a reason, right? And you're going to take a -1 penalty to your evasion score until the end of this session. So you are sacrificing a portion of your body. Remember, you are essentially undead, right? You are reanimated. And so not a big deal. Lose a finger, lose a piece of meat on your skin somewhere, but you're going to be a little less evasive. Honestly, what I would do if I was at a table and had a player who was willing to do this is, based on the situation, I wouldn't just have this strictly as a -1 penalty to the evasion score. I'd have it more based on the situation. So maybe they do sacrifice one of their hands. Well, now you can no longer, until the end of the session, carry a shield or a secondary weapon in that hand anymore. You're going to have to take that away from yourself. That's how I would do it. I think that would be a lot of fun. Like, if I was the player, I might suggest that to my GM. And this is just kind of like if there's no obvious decision to be made based on whatever is happening within the game, then you could just go to this. Just say a big chunk of your belly got cut off. You'll stitch it later, but you're a little less evasive. Whatever. Specialization features for the Stitched. You've got Stitched Up. Once per long rest, during a short rest, you can tend to wounds as a free move. So you get a bonus once per long rest. During your short rest, you're going to get a bonus free move. And it is very specifically going to be tend to wounds, because you're going to quite literally probably stitch yourself up a little bit. And then the next one is self-harm. Once again, your body is not really a vessel. Your body, it just allows you to do things. Like, it's not incredibly important to you, being the reanimator that you are, the Frankenstein's creation that you are. So, once per rest, you can mark a hit point and clear a stress. You just want to feel something, ultimately. So, I know it's a little bit of a visceral term here, but I think it works within the realm of this. Like I said, this is a little bit of a darker build. thematically for sure. Not going to be for everyone. And then the last up here is going to be Quench Blood. So quite like Quench Thirst, but instead, you want some blood. Once per rest, when you deal severe damage to an adversary, place 3 tokens on this card. Whenever you hit the target again, spend a token and clear a stress. So you're going to have some nice ways to be clearing your own stress with this build. There is a demand to be using stress through the bone and the dread domains. And to be perfectly honest, when you have one less concern in life with your second chance on life. So, yeah, it's a little less stressful for you this time around. And now we're going to go on to the second subclass here, the Grave Mind. Play the Grave Mind for a more mental experience. So we are going to use Knowledge as our spellcast trait. This is less about the physical alterations as it is about the souls. Even if you are stitched, maybe the souls of those that were within you, within the parts that were used to help rebuild portions of your body are within you. They are something that you're able to draw upon. Also, part of this reanimated patchwork is that your body doesn't have to have been chopped up necessarily in order to be brought back reanimated. It might be less body horror. It might just be that this morbid ritual, as is in the description, involved the essence of others, the blood of some others, the life forces of others who have died in order to help bring you back. And so those life forces can be drawn upon. They are a part of you. They're what allowed you to come back. So that's kind of the idea behind the Grave Mind. So for the foundation features, we've got Supernatural Presence. When you make a presence roll, you can spend a hope to add your knowledge to the roll. So you're a little bit more supernaturally, I don't want to quite say intimidating, but depends on how you play it, but you can use your supernatural presence in order to help to get whatever it is that you want in certain situations. And then we've got Mind over Body. Once per rest, when you would gain a condition, ignore the condition. Somewhere inside of you, part of your essence, part of somebody else's essence, whatever, you can draw upon that strength in order to ignore a condition once per rest. For our specialization feature, we've got From the Grave. When you have 0 hope and the GM would gain a fear, you can gain a hope instead. That is actually one, I want to say, it's a feature somewhere within the game that I drew from. And then we got our mastery feature, and as you can see, I'm actually going to provide an alternate mastery feature if this is something that it doesn't quite work, or if your GM wouldn't be comfortable with this, but you want to play this class, something else I have here that you could use instead. But I wanted to go with Possessor. This is directly taken from like the Possessor movie in terms of the name for this feature. So once per long rest, you can make a spellcast roll against a target. On a success, place 4 tokens on this card. So it's kind of going to work like the flight spell. You take control of the adversary. When you make an action roll while the adversary is under your control, spend a token from this card. After the action that spends the last token is resolved, the GM regains control of the adversary. So you can literally just like possess an opponent, and I do have some safeguards in here, so you couldn't just like possess him, keep him still, not do anything. Also, it's when you make an action roll, any action roll. The action roll does not have to be for the adversary. You might want to do something from your own body while doing this, maybe even want to run away or something, and you're going to have to spend a token though, because that's just, think of it maybe like your concentration being used in a sense. Any instances of the word fear for the adversary are going to be changed to hope, and any instances of hope are changed to fear, so just flipping those so that way the character works for you, the adversary works for you mechanically against the GM rather than how the GM would have worked against you for those features. And then the GM may spend a fear to remove a token. So, or they might spend 4 fear to remove all 4 tokens. And it's up to you to decide if you want to limit that to like, oh, they can only spend 1 fear at a time to remove 1 token, at a time or something like that. But nonetheless, this is part of making sure that you can't try to cheese the adversary out of a fight completely or something like that, especially for like a one-on-one battle. You know, then that would just be really boring and it wouldn't be a fun session anyways in a one-on-one battle to like possess him, and then what are you going to do? So there are some ways for the GM to help fight back against this, and I think this is really fun. I think I have the proper guardrails on it to make it work. I could see GMs not wanting that. Okay, so for the alternate mastery feat, we've got Stolen Identity, gain an additional experience, except that this experience is blank. You're not going to have to title it or anything. It's just a blank experience there. It can be used for, you know, anything that you can use your normal experience on, and the bonus is going to be +2. You're going to have to spend a stress in order to get that +2 bonus to any trait rolls. So it can be used for anything. This is referring to the experience. It can be used for, you know, it's a blank experience. It's a blank check. But you're going to have to spend a stress to add the +2 bonus to any trait rolls, because it has to be a trait roll in order to use your experience, I believe. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't, but I'm limiting it to trait rolls, whatever. Once per rest, you can spend a hope and a stress for a bonus of +4. So you spend the stress for the +2, and then you spend a hope to get an additional +2 on top of that. You cannot spend more than one stress for the feature to any for the feature on any single trait roll. So you can't spam it. You can't use it multiple times, and this can not be stacked with another experience. So I think that's different from how experiences work. I know I'm calling this as an experience because that's the easiest way to relate it and to explain it, but obviously there are some differences in experience. This costs a hope, this costs a stress, or a stress and a hope for a +4 bonus, and there's some other limitations on it that are a little bit different than experiences. Nonetheless, I think just a nice way to pull upon, make yourself a little bit more varied in the, you know, in your skill set because of whatever physical and or mental connections you have with the reanimated portions of your body that have been used for that. So there you go. That is the Reanimated Patchwork. I don't know. I think it's pretty fun, pretty cool. And I gotta say though, like the Bone and Dread domain together, it's a pretty cool combo. There's like, it's just a lot of cool cards, and there's so many different ways that you can ultimately take it, so many different decisions that you're going to have to make in terms of the domain cards. And I would say if you were to make this, having a good idea, a background, and a good vision for your character would probably help you to choose, you know, specific domain, like help to make those choices a little bit easier because you're trying to fit into that flavor of your character along the way. So yeah, very, very fun, cool, darkish character. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe if you liked it. Peace out.